So quantum mechanics, right. It always seems like this big mysterious thing, kind of intimidating, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But get this. You sent us this speech, and it's about how quantum mechanics connects to business.
Mm.
And not just in like a vague, everything is energy way.
Oh, interesting.
We're talking actual strategies here.
Okay, yeah, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this speaker.
So the speaker, get this, they've got this background in business, so they're not just a physicist, theorizing from some ivory tower.
Right, right.
They've actually seen these connections play out in the real world.
Makes it much more credible then, for sure. So where do they start? How do they even begin to connect these two worlds?
Okay, so they start with this example, and it's about a chair.
A chair.
A chair. Now, stay with me here because it's actually way cooler than it sounds.
Uh-huh.
They're talking about how, even though a chair seems perfectly still.
Right? Right, just sitting there.
Exactly. But on a microscopic level, it's actually buzzing with activity.
Okay, that's getting into some quantum physics there.
Right.
I mean, it's true. Everything is made up of these tiny particles that are constantly in motion.
Right. And that's what the speaker is highlighting.
It's easy to forget about that when we look at the world, you know? We just see a chair, not all the energy within it.
Exactly. And so they're making this connection to business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe on the surface, things seem stable.
Right. You might have your business plan, your projections.
Yeah, but underneath, there's always something happening.
Always something brewing.
And that got me thinking, it's like, what opportunities are you missing if you're only focusing on what's obvious?
It's about looking deeper, beyond the surface level. Like you said, that's where the real opportunities might be hiding.
Right. And that's where this idea of adaptability comes in.
Okay, yeah, being able to respond to those subtle cues, those shifts in the energy, so to speak.
Exactly. Because in business, just like in quantum mechanics, nothing is truly at rest.
Everything is in flux.
Okay, but now here's where it gets really interesting. They bring up this experiment, the double slit experiment. You've probably heard of it.
Oh yeah, the double slit experiment, classic quantum physics.
So they're shooting a single electron at a barrier with two slits.
Right, and common sense says
It should go through one or the other, right?
exactly, one or the other. But that's not what happens.
No.
The electron, it goes through both slits simultaneously.
What?
It's as if it's in two places at once.
Mind-blowing.
Completely counterintuitive.
But here's the thing, and here's the business connection. Imagine you're facing this tough decision in your business, right?
Right, a fork in the road.
You've got two options, and they seem completely opposite.
Two paths that seem mutually exclusive.
But what if, instead of limiting yourself to just one, you could find a way to embrace both?
Like the electron going through both slits.
Exactly. It's like that both and thinking the speaker talks about.
It's a very different way of approaching problems, that's for sure. Not just thinking either or, but both and.
So what if those contradictory strategies could actually work together to create something even better?
It's definitely a challenge to wrap your head around.
Okay, so we've got vibrating chairs, electrons in two places at once.
Laying the groundwork here.
Get this. The speaker then talks about how, at the quantum level, there's no separation.
Okay, getting even deeper now.
Just this unified plasma of energy.
Whoa.
And they even suggest this applies to us,
To us.
to our thoughts, emotions, the whole shebang.
So are we all connected in some way, they're asking?
It makes you think, right? Like, have you ever walked into a meeting and just felt the energy,
Oh yeah, totally.
either positive or negative?
Palpable.
What if that's this interconnectedness at play?
Wow.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is. Makes you wonder about the implications. If we're all contributing to this collective energy, how much influence do our individual thoughts and feelings really have? And that's where this whole idea of the mind as a quantum magnet comes in, which the speaker talks about.
Okay, a quantum magnet. Huh. So how does that work exactly? How's our mind like a magnet in this whole quantum scenario?
So they're suggesting that our thoughts and feelings, they're not just these abstract things happening in our heads, you know?
Okay, yeah, I get that. But how does that connect to being a magnet?
Well, they're saying these thoughts, these feelings, they're actually generating electromagnetic waves.
Oh, hold on. Like actual waves?
Actual waves going out and get this, interacting with the world around us.
Okay, so you're telling me my thoughts and feelings are sending out signals. That's a pretty wild thought. But what does that even mean for, like, my everyday life?
Think of it like a radio.
Right. Okay, I'm with you.
You tune it to a specific frequency, you pick up a specific station.
Right. Makes sense.
So the speaker is suggesting that our thoughts, our feelings, they have their own frequency.
So, like, if I'm constantly thinking about problems or if I'm, like, super focused on what's not working.
Exactly. They're saying you're more likely to attract those same frequencies back.
So I'm basically attracting more negativity into my life.
It's kind of like that. They talk about how focusing on lack tends to breed more lack while focusing on abundance, you know?
You attract more abundance.
Exactly.
Okay, so where have I heard this before? This sounds a bit like, those.
Right. And they even mention this specific CD.
See? That's what I'm talking about.
But just to be, we're just sticking to what's in the source material here.
Of
right?
course, of course.
We're not endorsing anything. But it's interesting that they bring it up as an example of how these frequencies can be, like, amplified.
Okay, but they're not saying it's a magic solution, right?
No, definitely not. They're actually very clear about that. Real change, lasting change, it takes more than just listening to a CD or, repeating some affirmations.
Right, it's not just going to magically fix everything.
Exactly. They emphasize that it's about addressing the root cause.
So getting to the bottom of why we think those negative thoughts in the first place.
Exactly. They actually compare these ingrained negative beliefs and traumas to concrete. They're like these blocks, right, that are holding back our potential.
Interesting analogy. So
Yeah.
how do we even begin to, chip away at that concrete? How do we even start?
Well, that's where they bring up this thing called the delayed choice experiment, and it gets even weirder.
Weirder than electrons being in two places at once.
You bet. It's a real head scratcher, this one.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
So picture the double slit experiment again, right?
Okay, got it. Electron, two slits.
But this time, instead of choosing how to measure the electron before it goes through the slits, you make the choice after it's already passed through.
Hold on. How can you decide after the fact?
I know, it seems impossible, right?
The electron has already gone through the slits. It's done its thing.
That's what's so mind-boggling about it. The results, they seem to suggest that observing it, choosing how to measure it, it actually influences its past behavior.
Are we saying we can change the past just by, changing our minds about it?
It's not about literally changing events, no. But it does make you wonder about how much power our observation, our perception has.
So less about changing what happened, more about changing how we view it.
Exactly. The speaker, they draw a parallel here. They say that we can essentially rewrite our past by changing our relationship to it.
So those old traumas, those limiting beliefs.
By shifting our perspective, changing how we relate to them, we can change how they affect us today, right now.
It's not that the past didn't happen.
But we don't have to be defined by it either.
We have the power to choose how it shapes us.
Powerful stuff.
So it's the past is real, it happened, but maybe the present moment, that's where we have the power to change our story.
It's a really interesting way of thinking about personal growth.
Because if we can change our story, we can change our future.
And the speaker is clear, this isn't about just thinking happy thoughts,
Right, no magic solutions here.
It's about digging deeper, doing the inner work, unearthing those hidden beliefs.
The stuff we don't even realize is driving us.
Exactly. Because our conscious thoughts, they're just the tip of the iceberg.
So there's this whole other part of us, the unconscious. And that's running the show.
That's what they seem to be saying, yeah. And all that stuff we don't want to look at, those limiting beliefs, the old hurts, the patterns we keep repeating.
That's where it all lives, in the unconscious.
Hiding out down there. And the speaker says those patterns, they can have a huge impact on us without us even knowing it.
It's kind of creepy when you think about it like that. If we're not even aware of these patterns, how do we change them?
Right. It's a real challenge. And the speaker doesn't give some easy answer, some quick fix. They keep coming back to awareness.
Okay, so paying more attention to our thoughts, our reactions, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Noticing those things we do over and over, especially if they're not getting us what we want.
It's like shining a light on the stuff we usually keep hidden, right?
Yeah, bringing it out into the open so we can actually see it. Once we see it, we can start to understand how it's affecting us.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because we've covered a lot of ground here. Vibrating chairs, electrons doing their thing, our minds being magnets. It's a lot.
It is a lot to take in, for sure.
So what does it all mean for the average person? Someone who's just trying to run their business, or even just trying to figure out this whole life thing. What's the takeaway?
I think more than anything, the speaker wants us to look at things differently. It's less about memorizing quantum physics equations,
Right.
and more about opening your mind to new possibilities, new ways of seeing yourself and the world around you.
So it's like they're handing you this new lens, and
Yeah.
you can look at everything through it. Your work, your relationships, even just your own potential.
Exactly. It's a new perspective.
Yeah.
And a more empowering one, too, because the speaker is basically saying you're not just a passive bystander in your own life.
You're an active participant.
And a powerful one at that. You have the ability to shape your reality. Maybe not completely, but in ways we're just beginning to understand.
Makes you think, what kind of world do we want to create then?
Mm-hmm.
Individually, but also together. It's like the speaker's urging us to ask ourselves that question and then, actually do something about it.
It's a big question, but maybe asking it is the first step.
It's certainly given us a lot to think about.
Yeah.
To everyone listening, we hope you found this deep dive as fascinating as we did.
Absolutely.
It's a whole new way of looking at things. So, until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and as always, keep diving deep.